Well, hello, my friends. What's going on? How is everybody doing today? Hopefully, you're doing well. Maybe catch the replay. I see Orchard Audio was already here. Yes, I let the notification go a little while early. And this stream will stay online as long as it doesn't get copyrighted by any of the music I play in the background. But I've selected a CD that is typically copyright free, so this should be just fine. And regardless, even if it's not copyright, all the information and talking points should still exist online anyways. The only thing the copyright thing does sometimes is it will sometimes block the video in certain areas and or exist as a way to demonetize, which I'm not really looking to make money on the videos. It's more like just for conversation and chat sake. That's why I like to keep things active and keep the channel going. So today we are talking about Orchard Audio and more specifically my experiences and time with the Orchard Audio amps. The Starkrimson premium monoblocks. Now these are the second iteration of I'm probably more than second iteration. I got to be careful how I say or speak to certain facts or otherwise details, because as we all know, reviewers these days are saying things that are out of turn and making statements that are not necessarily fact or true, which is a big problem, I will admit. So I don't want to say something definitively one way or the other. I will say that these are the second version of the Starkrimson amps that I know of. The first, I think it had a different name. Starkrimson is actually the second name, because Zeos Review had a version that was a previous version, and I think they underwent a design change where the power and inputs were on the same side. The previous versions, the power and the output were on the opposite side. Speaker terminals were on another side. These, however, are the latest, the newest Orchard Audio amps to the premium versions of the Orchard Audio amps. So we'll try to do our best to review them as best as possible. Yes, I've got a static viewing angle here. You can see the amps. They're not so well lit up. I should have a light on them so you can see from this distance. Hello, Trones is in the chat. Welcome. Hello. I respect everybody for showing up, having a look at the video, listening today as we talk about the Orchard Audio products. These amps more specifically, as I've had them in home for quite a number of months now, and a number of my videos previous to this one have the sound samples with the Arundel Towers, the SVS bookshelves, which you can see here, and Kanto YU5 passives, the Monolith Encore series, the C6, the T6, the B6. All of those sound samples are on my channel, and all of those were using the Orchard Audio amplifier. So if you want any sound demos for any comparison's sake, for entertainment reasons, any entertainment reasons or otherwise, you can check out all those previous sound samples. We will I'll give you a close-up look at the amps now. I've got a little bit of a light here. We're gonna use the light. I'll get up close to the amps. We'll give you guys a good look at them here. I see Andre Harmon is here. This guy's gonna get himself banned right away. So there's the Orchard Audio amps. I didn't clean them up much. Sorry about that, Leo. Jordan B is here. Yes. We'll deal with the laughter as it comes. So these are the Starkrimson premium monoblocks. They have premium terminals, XLR ins, power input. Really nice brushed aluminum chassis. The logo is engraved into the top of the chassis there. It is angled on the front, as you can see. Very nice hardware all the way around. There are rubber feet on the bottom. try to get my different camera angle here. Sorry about that. So there we go. There's a bit of an angle. You see the front is angled. They are a Class D technology. These are using gallium nitride GaN FET technology, and they're Class D. I'll talk about a little bit more about that now. I have the website queued up. We can go over the details. If you guys know that my lives are very casual, I like to sit in my room more to have the conversation with my friends and those in the chat, you know, the ones that are being nice anyways. I don't mind booting and blocking people that are just being unreasonably savage. Typically that's my point of view. Now, I don't mind people having an opinion, but keep it respectful at least, or intelligent. You can be intelligently insulting. I don't have much of a tolerance for people who are just mindless. So be intelligent, make it clever at least. So this is my idea of picture-in-picture. So here's the amps. This is the website. You guys can see Starkrimson mono, premium mono there. Here's the photos taken by a friend of mine, friend of ours, I guess. These are Lee Shelley's photos on the webpage. Very awesome. So you can just check that out. Here's all the details, pricing in US dollars. You can select your country, go through all of the details, Starkrimson mono premium instructions. Additional info is all on the webpage. If you guys really want to know more details, don't take my word for it. Please look on the website for all of the details. Here's the nitty-gritty. 150 watts into 8 and 4 ohms. A gain of 21.5, which is pretty decent. I love the fact that it's 2 ohm capable. That's very, very stout. It's a very light amp, very small. All of the previews, the reviews are there. Full product specs are there. And then they also have a larger version, which is more watts, but essentially the same given details. So yeah, there you go. All kinds of goodies, all on the webpage. You guys can check it out. There's the name, Starkrimson mono premium amplifier monoblocks. And yeah, so let's get to some questions. Orchard are fairly pricey. They are, but it's also GaN FET technology, and the fact that they're basically assembled and made in the U.S. give them a little bit more of a price. There are a number of different types of amps that are being made in the U.S. They have different kinds of chassis options, yada yada. To me, a lot of them look boring. These are the best looking of all of them, as far as I'm concerned. So we won't talk about those very much. But yeah, they're not cheap. But here's the thing. Jordan B's asking, have I tried Emotiva? And the answer is no. But again, because this is a featured stream, I won't be talking about other brands. Yes, US made. So they're assembled. Orchard Audio is a US company that like designed and engineered their own boards, assembles and finishes all the products in the US, and is somewhat distributed throughout North America. Like there are locations, I think, in Canada that have some for Canadian distribution, and the US, but don't quote me. You'll have to talk to the owners at Orchard Audio directly, work that out, send an email, send your quotes, send your information into Orchard Audio directly, and they will be able to tell you otherwise. Now, I know that some other brands will sell their amps locally, but they get them made and assembled somewhere else entirely. They don't, it's not just a matter of ordering parts from somewhere else and assembling it locally, which is what most people do. When you see a name tag that says made in this place, made in that place, yada yada, I mean, let's face it, a lot of the materials that are in those products, they're not mined locally. The baskets are not formed locally. The drivers are not formed locally. Like SVS is a US company, but all their products are made and assembled and boxed and shipped from China, where the Orchard Audio amplifiers have some parts that may be made somewhere, but they're assembled in the US, and their engineering boards are all, or the amplifier boards and the electronics are all in the US. So that's more made in the US than a lot of other brands might be. So Jordan's calling out Tone Winner and Emotiva, both same China factory. Yeah, with you can add Iota ATX or the Iota brand from the UK. They're all very, very similar. And this is where a lot of the arguments about US made or blah, 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 like the Orchard Audio amplifiers have a proprietary board. They're made and assembled and engineered all in the US. So it's not something that you can buy off the shelf from another brand. You're not going to see these boards made and inside of other amps. So you're going to need to buy them directly from Orchard Audio for that fact. And you won't see similar boards with like different capacitors and different cabling and different finish, different color board. Like it's not a green board, maybe it's yellow, maybe it's black. You know, different brands will just do that kind of thing. They'll buy a board, but they'll change some parts based on specs, and they'll make their own. You know, they'll call it their own, even though it's a board that's just generalized in another factory. So Andrea's just obsessing over the finer details of the stream. That's very nice of you. How about that? How's that for you? Oh, get it in. Get in all of the snarkiness. Oh, yes. Make comments. Yes. Would you talk about my carpet next? Do you like the carpet? Huh? Do you like the carpet? Jesus Christ. Jordan's been here. Jordan knows what's going on. So yeah, all the boards inside the Orchard Audio amps, they're all proprietary. I wish I could open them up. There's not very many that have seen the internals. There's one photo by a magazine that had them open. I think it was Soundstage Network opened them up. They probably have their own review. Proper review of these. This is not a proper review. I just want to talk about how they sound, give you some sound clips, that kind of thing. Rats Arcade says, I can see carpet. Yes, very, very, very nice. I'm reading whatever's coming up in chat, and people just seem to like talk about other things other than audio. So yeah, so some of the sound clips, you guys want to hear some of the sound clips, then we'll get into that right now. I'll just turn this a little bit. Someone's asking, Andrea's asking, what song is that? The song is actually on a CD that's not available anymore. You'll have to look it up. It's TDF, Retail Therapy. It's an old album that someone, a famous guitar player, did as his electronic. Jordan's asking, what are you using for source today? Yeah, that's the CD player, the CD11. You can see the lights on underneath. That's the CD player. Earned a sub. Oh, subscription. Oh, that's awesome. I appreciate it. I do appreciate it. I mean, I like to keep a little bit civil in the chat, and you know, I'm not here just for numbers. I really want to have a community that respects each other and shows respect. It's too easy to just allow people to just say and do whatever they want these days for the sake of attention, and I'm not one of those people. I will absolutely ban and block you for even the smallest bits of disrespect, because I would prefer not to see it. I have a lot of people that come by and chat and watch, and I don't need them seeing stuff that's absolutely senseless. So in a way, I'm actually holding the community to a standard so that we have a better community at the end of the day. And people that come to see information about the Orchard Audio amps don't have to sift through a whole bunch of garbage to get there. I hope you guys can respect that. Yeah, so the SVS speakers have been doing very, very well. I did record, like I said earlier, I did record a number of sound demos with other speakers in this room using the same amps. So if you want to hear any of those differences, sure. I don't have any electronics to measure these. Like I don't have an Audio Precision. I don't have the equipment that Audioholics has, or that Aaron's Audio has, or that ASR has. I don't have any of that stuff. So in the way of technical specs, I can't tell you any of those details. I can tell you that between this version of the amp and the previous versions, these ones have a little bit more bottom end. And I think what's going on there is Leo, the owner at Orchard Audio, added a different power supply to this chassis because the previous chassis for the Starkrimson amp had an external power supply. This one has an internal power supply. So let me see if I can find a picture of this amp on the inside. Okay, we see. I'm reading some of the chat here. I'm seeing some friends that are in this chat together. Andrea and Rat know each other. Maybe Rat was here first. Wonder if Trones is still here. Let me just look up. I'm looking for the photo. I can't look. I put my search on screen. That's not going to be good. Let me look up Sound Stage Network Orchard Audio images. I want to see if they show the internals. There's a bunch of different versions. I don't know if it's going to show the internals. Oh yeah. So I'm going to piggyback off of somebody else's article. If you guys want to see what's going on, then there's the review on Soundstage. There's a bunch of literature. Basically, the lab test will show a bunch of details. They're talking about the difference between MOSFET and then GANFET. So amplifier uses PDM output run through low pass filter. So I don't know what any of this stuff they're talking about here. So you can see that there's the power supply there. So it's a very, very tidy power supply. And it talks about all the details in the Soundstage Network overview. Very, very good look at the internals on the inside. It's very clean design. There's more details on the power supply. So now what I was talking about is the power supply difference between this one and the other one, which is this. This is essentially the amplifier with the input and output, and this is the power supply on the outside. So it's a much, much larger power supply, but I can tell you from experience listening to the other amplifiers, the Starkrimson Trio and Duo amps, which essentially have some of the same boards inside. This is the preamp board, the back of the outboard. This is the previous versions. This is the Starkrimson Mono, the previous versions where the power supply is external. So yeah, the internal power supply with the new amp is actually very, very good. The differences between the Starkrimson Trio and Duo is the bass response from the new one, from the new premium model, actually sounded fuller. There was more, for whatever reason, it sounded like there was more bass, more output, more lower end, more reach. So it could be something with the gain stage coupled with the power supply. I would have to get a full detail and ask the owner really what's going on and why I'm hearing there's more bass output. Another recommendation from the company was that you want to position the amplifier on a short, relatively short cable run to the speaker. Now, these are on 8-foot cables, not very, very good cables, mind you, but 8-foot cables nonetheless. And they're mostly isolated. I actually built these little amplifier stands myself. I had wanted to paint them white, but I had never done that. So these are essentially just a couple pieces of hardware and a block of bamboo that I'm using. You can see that the legs there just underneath, they're screwed underneath. And the reason is this is a very small amp. You can see by the size of it versus the subwoofer, it's very, very small. It's not a standard size. It's actually less than half of a standard rack width. It's a very cool effect there. I've got the sun blasting in my window. So it's actually half of a standard width. Like this is a standard 19-inch width. Getting some of my head fi going on over here. The CD player, the preamp on this side, running XLRs around the room to the XLR here, and then the speaker cable sort of snaked around the back, only single output. So there's no reason to have a bi-amplified signal there. And it sounds great. And like I said, subjectively, what I noticed on my Arundel Towers and my SVS speakers is that the bass output on the premium monos is not significantly, but enough of a difference that I noticed it. And it's there's more low end output from the premium models compared to the other models, the Trio, the Duo. Ted K is here. What's going on, my man? Thank you for joining and watching. It's a little bit of a hot one today. I don't know what's really going on out there. The weather has been wild for a little while. Wild for a little while? What did I just say? It's so stupid. Hopefully everybody's doing well. It's nice to see everybody in the chat. Just try to get this angle going on here. It's more interesting. Off my chair. We're gonna get some pink light in here. Got the sun blasting off of my chair. You see this? It's like glowing. I have like this. So this is all about the Orchard Audio amps. Yeah, I'm getting a sunbeam right off of my chest. I'm gonna look like Iron Man in 10 minutes. It's gonna be like right up here in my stomach. Yeah, Orchard Audio has been amazing. The customer service and attention to detail with the product and answering emails. The shipping process was really, really great. I've had no issues with the amps. They've performed flawlessly. Yeah, goodbye. That's enough. I gave warnings to the people in chat if they continued saying things that are absolutely ridiculous and or completely unintelligible, that they were going to get blocked. So they got blocked. Subscribe to me or not, I don't care. You can unsubscribe now for all I care. I gave you a fair warning the same way that I did everybody else in chat. If you're going to talk nonsense, bye. That's fine with me. I hope everybody else is doing well. Is there anything else that anybody wants to know who's been here that they want to know about Orchard Audio as a brand, the kind of products that they make? I can list a number of them. I can call up on my phone exactly the details. I'll try to answer as best I can. The best that you can do is just scroll over to Orchard Audio on their website and then scroll through all their products. They have preamps, streamers, streamer preamps as far as I know. They have XLR converters. They have a number of different kinds of amplifiers, stereo amps. They have dual monoblock and capacitor upgrade amplifiers. So their Starkrimson Ultra models are a higher wattage and higher output. There's lots of different options, and Leo's been a really, really great guy. He's been very responsive. He's been very clear on how the amps are to perform, their sound, how to set them up, all that kind of thing. Really, really nice to work with, very reasonable. See this question, Ted K says, do you get a decent holographic presentation with these? Ted, let me talk about that specific topic, the idea of holographic. In the chat, you can go ahead and tell me what you think that means before I answer it. And the reason why I'm challenging that word is because it's subjective. What I hear is not what you're going to hear. And if I say holographic, it doesn't really mean anything about the speakers because I'm not listening to them outside. I'm listening to them in my room because the room has a big effect on everything. I mean, you're talking about a room that has all kinds of treatment all the way around the room. You know what I mean? Like these walls will reflect some of the sound. How am I supposed to know that the amps have a holographic sound when the sound is bouncing off that wall? It's, you know what I mean? Like I think that question, when people talk about holographics, personally, and I know that even some of my good friends talk about holographics, I think they're full of shit, to be honest. I mean, they're only talking about it from their room, their reference point, their systems. Yes, it's subjective to them. So when you put the speakers and the amplifiers in your room, do you think that what they say translates? I don't. I don't think that holographics is a very fair thing to say. I mean, yes, it's possible to have it, but how are you really going to test that? I mean, I love all my friends. Don't get me wrong. Like I'm not throwing shade at. Look at my crotch is on fire down here. Don't look at my crotch. Pink elephant. The chair is pink. Let me see that. Oh, we're gonna get wild over here. It's just the kind of streams that I have. I like this angle, but I don't like where the sun and everything is. So holographic. In my room, I can achieve that, but that's because of where I position the speakers. They're a little bit toed out, so they aim over my shoulders. That's typically where I like them aiming in general. So the Arundel Towers, same thing. All my other speakers, same thing. They aim over my shoulders, so I can just barely see the inside of the cabinet. You know what I mean? Like this would be on axis, this would be toed out. So you can see this little bit of the cabinet on the outside. It's aiming over my shoulders. That effect, in general, for me, even with the Orchard Audio amps, and same when I had my Rotel amp in here and I used a receiver or amplifier in here with my speakers, the same position gave me the same sort of sound staging. What I can say, though, that is more apparent with this upgrade, not to say that the Rotel didn't have it, is that there was a sense of micro detail in the efficiency of a Class D amp that I really appreciate. Their 21.5 dB gain is not as high as the Rotel. The Rotel was, I think, 28 dB gain on the amp makes a difference in terms of the volume knob. So if I'm turning up the amp, the volume number versus the output is just based on the gain. Lower gain can actually mean lower noise floor. So that's the first thing I'm going to say is my Rotel amps had a certain noise floor that I could hear, like with my ear right up to the tweeter. These don't have a noise floor at all. They're absolutely dead silent. There's like a legitimately black background to these amps when you turn the power on. Ted K actually says, I just got Fosse V3 monoblocks, amazing for the money, but I want to step it up. My man, I know that the Fosse Audios are like 500 each, and these are almost triple that, but these are worth it. For a Class D amp that doesn't get hot at all, I know the Fosse Audios have a heating problem, and if you run more power through them, they're going to heat up even more. These are way, 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 way better than the Fosse Audios. I know what they're running. They're running a really nice chip with some heat sinking that are vented out the side. Don't forget Aaron's Audio ran those amps. He was testing one, running it through its paces, and he did blow one of them up. So that says something. I believe, and my opinion is, these premium monoblocks, I mean, look at the size. Let me flip the camera. I'd really love to sell one of these today. Look at the size of this. Now I'm a 6 foot dude. My hands are, roughly 8-inch from the palm to my finger ish. These are small. You can hide these anywhere, and there's only a little bit of warmth that comes through right here, and this is where the power supply is. The amplifier board is on this side, and it doesn't get hot at all. I mean, it's like 1 or 2 degrees above room temperature. Honestly, they don't get warm at all, and that's why I really love them, because when you have the sun blasting in your goddamn window, you don't need your amplifiers adding to the heat, unless of course you want to use them as room warmers in the wintertime. I mean, if you're into that kind of thing and you live somewhere really cold, maybe you want to buy tube amps. But as far as I know, Leo doesn't have any plans on running tubes anytime soon. Now, I could be wrong. I mean, maybe he's got some secrets. I'm not privy to all the secrets, but I don't see that happening anytime soon. So their efficiency is something that I really like. In a Class D, there's lots of different options for Class D. I mean, Marantz just released 2 really, really, really expensive Class D amplifiers that are using a technology that is very, very similar to what the gallium nitride amps are using. Now, there's a lot of really high-end brands that are going that way. The reason is the technology has advanced so much that they're using different filter technologies, different switching frequencies so that they don't need the filtering, and everything is advancing further. So I can say with distinction, these don't have a noise floor. It's 0. There's no output because the transistors are turning on with signal. There's nothing running. It's not like a Class AB where the first little bit is Class A, meaning it's always running current. This is basically running no current. I mean, I'm not an engineer to tell you exactly how the amplifiers work, but from what I'm saying in terms of subjective opinion is there's no noise floor. So when they're on, you don't hear that they're on. There's no hiss, there's no hum, there's no buzzing, there's no internal sound. There's not even an LED in these amps to let you know that they're on. When you turn them on, there's a little bit of like a ramp up, like where the capacitors charge. You can hear it just a little bit. Now, I don't even know if that's normal, but in my experience turning these amps on, that's what you hear. There are some photos on my webpage, my Facebook. I will have to update later on. In previous videos, actually, I was testing the synergistic research cables, and when I plugged those bigger diameter plugs into the back of the amp, it was blocking the switch. The switch is actually part of, is on the power plug, so it's on the side of the power plug. And when you put a larger diameter power plug, it sort of covers some of the on-off switch. Now, you don't really need to turn them off. They don't get hot. They don't use any energy. They're about 95, maybe 96% efficient. So you're really not running, it's the same as leaving your phone plugged in. And if you're concerned about your phone being plugged in too long, but yeah, they're very, very efficient in that sense. So I love the fact that there's no noise floor. You're getting just the signal in, and they're not coloring everything with any sort of internals. There's very, very little in the internals in general. The amplifier circuit is actually very short, where the gallium nitride or GaN-FET amp modules or amp circuit is very efficient. They're very small. They switch very fast. Current goes in and out. Like, it's very, very good that way. So I know that there's a stigma around Class D and what Class D does and what it used to sound like. And yeah, maybe the old Class D didn't sound very good, but these actually sound very good. A number of friends of mine have gone to Class D amps in terms of their reference models because of how good Class D has gotten. All of the AVIC and Audio Group Denmark stuff, the Access line, the AVIC line, it's a Class D based amp in the Access line, and those are very, very good. So it's coming around and it's being engineered in an even better way and becoming cheaper all the time. So Class D tech in general, say like Fosse Audio or some of these other brands, are running Class D modules. NAD has turned to Class D. Marantz, like I said, is running Class D. Who else has changed to Class D recently? Lingdorf has actually changed to Class D in some of their amps. I know that Emotiva's in the chat mentioning the Bass X2. That's more like a Class AB because they're running a linear power supply toroidal with amp boards, so they're more like Class AB amps. Who else? I know that there's a bunch of other amps that are running Class Ds. I mean, you could talk about a bunch of other amps that are made in the US, like they're not really like kit amps, but some of them are. Buckeye amps is one of them. VTV is another one. XTZ is another one. They're not in the US though. The VTV, I don't know where VTV is from. But needless to say, a lot of the amps, a lot of the brands are slowly moving towards Class D. Now there's some differences in Class D output, and that's to be debated. Where if it's GANFET or if it's just typical Class D, Ice Power, Encore, and any one of the regular, Hypex, any one of these other modules, you may say Purify, for instance, is in the Marantz. Purify modules are in the NAD. There's a GANFET Tech amplifier section in the flagship Technics integrated amp. You can look it up. I don't remember what number it is. Yeah, the sun is blasting off of my pants right now because it's just that time of the day. So yeah, Class D has come a long way, and for me, the look of these amps, these premium mono blocks that Orchard Audio's created, the Starkrimson monos are really, really good. And you're going to see the Starkrimson Ultras that are coming out that are going to be about three quarters bigger than these, a little bit wider chassis, more output. These are 150 watts. The Ultras are going to be 500. You're going to have an optional switching mode power supply or a linear power supply on those. They should be coming out in October from what I see on the web page. So they're going to be a bigger chassis, probably still fit on my little stands here. I'm maybe interested in upgrading to the other ones. So these are about $12.50 US. Now I don't know if that's each or for the pair. I think it might be each. Yeah, these are $12.50 US each. You get a selection of power cord, inputs. It's auto switching voltage, so if you run it anywhere, I think the power supply will auto switch to 240, 220, 120. Yeah, and like I said, I mean, they're 87 dB sensitive speakers. These are 21 dB input sensitivity on the amps. They run 150 watts into 8 or 4 ohms, no change there because it's Class D tech. 2 ohms stable, so the power supply and amp board are actually very stable, well built, and sounds incredible. I mean, from all that I've been playing through the CD so far, everybody appreciates what they sound like. Let me see if I can get another song. We'll play this last song. Here you go. Here's another sound clip for all my friends watching. If you're watching in the chat, please comment. If you don't want to comment, you can just hit the like button. That's good enough. Actually, I would need to get the amplifier in this shot. Kind of not fair that I'm talking about the amps and then the amps are not in the shot. You just switch the camera twice. Bear with me. There, it's a wider angle. There you go. And you can still see my feet. Yeah, it's a pretty quiet song. I know. But you can hear all the subtleties in the guitar very well. It's got very precise portrayal of the micro details. So again, we are talking about the Orchard Audio amps. Orchard Audio, there we go. It's kind of hard to see if it's not in the light. You can see a little bit there. It's an XLR input only. Very, very good quality binding posts. There's the power switch right here. There are instructions on how to run it. It's a fully balanced amplifier, so the input from here and output is fully connected the same way that a tube amp would be. So you don't want to disconnect them while the amp is active. You need to power them off, let them sit, let the capacitors decharge, disconnect. There are instructions. Please, for the love of God, always read the fucking manuals. A lot of people get into trouble with their equipment because they don't know how it works, and then something happens. Read the manual. These companies put a manual in their products for a reason. Don't think you're that smart. Just read it. And if you don't know anything about your products, for the love of God, don't go to Facebook for questions. Don't ask people online for questions. Ask the brand. I mean, the brand made it. What makes you think people on Facebook know better than the brand themselves? And even then, ask Google first. Google's way faster than people on Facebook. It's a little bit of a PSA. I see questions all the time, and there's just so much bullshit that gets said online. It's crazy. So why do these companies spend so much money investing in their research and the development and their manuals and their all that kind of stuff if you're just gonna go ask random opinionated people in Facebook for the answers? Come on, we want better from the community, and I know there's some smart people out there, but you got to think about, like, these companies spend a lot of money and they know what they're talking about. It's their products, right? Like, do you ask anybody online about your Apple iPhone? No, you call Apple and you say, hey, what happened to my Apple? Or does anybody on Facebook know about your Toyota car or your whatever you're driving? No, just ask the company. Read the manual, ask the company, do it the right way, find out the right information. If you need to know anything about the products when you're hooking it up or using it, companies made this stuff. They have a customer service sort of thing for a reason. So it's a better idea to ask the company about it rather than going to Facebook as your first answer. I'm going to restart the CD. Going back to the beginning. Yeah, there's only so much music I can listen to copyright free. So that's basically the gist of the products. Living It with Scott and Kat podcast. What's going on? It's a different white shirt today. I'm sorry. I went all psychedelic. That's what it is. It says, hey, what's up, man? Stopping by to say, hey, have a great day. Yeah, well, it's a little better today. I had the worst headache yesterday, and my body was just like, no, you're not doing anything today. Unless you feel like streaming from the bathroom, I suggest you don't do a stream today. So you're welcome. I chose not to do a stream from the bathroom. It might still happen, but only from my Patreon followers. You guys want to see some more feet and more bathroom streams? You're going to have to subscribe to my Patreon only, and then I'll get really weird. But for now, it's just me and Iron Man shirt over here. So thanks for stopping by, Scott. Ted, hopefully I've answered your questions. The last question was what they sound like. So Ted's previous question was about sound staging, holographicness. So let me talk about what I think holographic has to do with. Holographics to me relate to something that Ron at New Record Day would say is the time domain. The time domain is based on frequencies that reflect directivity, like bouncing or separation or indications between instruments, right? Really high frequency stuff. You're talking about 8K and 10K above, which is really what high fidelity is about. High fidelity is about recreating frequencies in that top range. 8K to 20K is where hi-fi really exists. A lot of people's hearings, it's not stereo. When you test your hearing, the standardized hearing test is 200 hertz to 8,000 hertz, which is the range of speech, including the sibilance that's in consonants and S, T, Z, like certain frequencies like that are at the top indicate certain punctuation spots. Hi-fi has to do with details that are in those frequencies and above, because they're short wavelengths, and in order for a short wavelength to hit your ear at certain times between your left and right is very, very directional dependent. You can get your ear to ear distance is about 6 inches, 6.5 inches. If you do the math, that's around the 2,000 hertz mark. And the difference between your left and right ear from left and right in your room, there's a timing difference. Your ears, fun fact, your ears can actually hear up to about a quarter wavelength of 100,000 hertz. What is that, 25K? But it's a difference of the wave of about 100th of a second. It's math, look it up. I'm not making this shit up. I don't try to attract subscribers based on jargon and bullshit. I'm only talking about neuroscience. Your ears can pick up the differences in about 100th of a second because it has to do with where the frequencies are coming from around you. Your ears are not much up and down, but they're left and right by a big gap. Up and down's not as critical. Where as human beings, we didn't develop hearing for the above our heads. Like we're not worried about hawks and eagles and birds and or apes or monkeys in the tree above us. We are not tuned to listen above our ears or farther below us, right? Like an owl, their ears are up here and down here, as well as front to back. So they can hear things way beyond what we can. And their directivity is amazing. So when people talk about holographic sound, they're talking about high frequency separation and how accurate it can play between things. But that's based on two different things. The speakers I'm using, 3 things actually, if we want to get technical. The speakers I'm using, the room that I'm listening in, and maybe the amplifier or the components that I have. So it's not just one thing I'm taking out. Maybe in a reference system, yes. If I swap one thing out, I can hear what changes. In this case, the details on the Class D are very good. They're very sharp, which is what I appreciate. They're not screechy sharp. They're just clear sharp, you know? So my Rotel was a little bit the same, but it had a different character. And I never listened to them A-B, really, because I didn't have them at the same time. I think the biggest differences that I was noticing is when I borrowed Thomas and Stereo's TS120 amp, the tube amp was very different. That one gave a different presentation because there wasn't like a difference in the sound. There was like a character of sound that was different. So I still heard all the high frequencies, the bass. It was very interesting. It was warmer, so I don't know if there was a tilt on things, but tubes add something to the output signal and it sounds different. So there's a truth to that, the same way that vinyl's going to have a sound because of their EQing compared to streaming or CD, because digital is relying on the analog portion of the DAC. Chris Wakefield's here. It says, hey, yo, it's you. How are you doing? Did you get your new speakers? No, I didn't get new speakers. I know I was talking about new speakers a little while ago. I'm still waiting on 2 people for the new speakers. The sun's still blasting in my room. Still got the hot pink chair there. I don't know if is the volume here in my voice good? Can I, if I put the camera further away, do you think it would be okay? Do I need to be further away, closer? Is this, you guys give me some feedback based on my format. I do all my videos the same and nobody really says anything negative, which is good, except for someone talked about the mirror and they said to get rid of the mirror. And I decided, no, I don't want to listen to people. But if you do have feedback, I'd love to hear from you. So 2 new speakers coming. I don't want to say what the other one is, but one of them was the KEF R3 Metas. I asked someone locally, a local rep, who is, I think, associated with KEF somehow. The Toronto Audio Fest show is coming up in, 3 new speakers, 3 new bookshelf speakers should be in the room before November. 3 new speakers to test. So please, for the love of God, share some videos. Invite your friends to subscribe. I'm trying to get to 2025 before 2025, like New Year. I don't know if I'm going to make that. I haven't been doing a lot of videos lately, but I'm hoping if friends invite friends, then we can like double the number, because we're about 1,000, like 1,100 right now. So if we can double that by New Year's, that would be amazing. So 3 new bookshelves that I'm going to try to get. I will tell you the R3 Meta I'm trying to get. I'll still have the Orchard Audio amps with me, so there will be lots more to come about Orchard Audio. I can say more about their details. Again, consult the website if you really want to know. Yeah, so the website's going to have all the details for you. Thank you. Tyrone's is saying that it sounds good. That's awesome. I'm glad that it does sound good. It is a pretty standard sort of, like, it's a phone mic. So there's like, I don't know if there's a difference there because the mics are like top and bottom, or maybe they're mono. I don't know how that difference is. You guys can tell me if it's just mono. It's mono, that's cool. There's nothing much I can do to change that anyways. I just want to check and make sure all messages are on. Okay, that's cool. So yeah, I'm really, really happy about these amps. I'll tell you a little bit of story about the Orchard Audio amps. I had a Rotel 5-channel amp at one point. The 5-channel amp came at a time where I was transitioning between using a receiver, that's all I had, to 2-channel audio and separates. So not an integrated, not a receiver. I wanted to get separate power amp, separate preamp. And I found a really decent preamp that I thought was, the one thing that I might change in my system right now is my preamp. Let me show you guys. So my preamp is the Rotel 15, the RC 1590 Mark II. Now it's a good preamp. Let me just shine a light on the situation, shall we? So it's the 1590. Look how really cool a light is, you know. Just use a light in your videos and everything looks so much cooler. Oh, that's so professional. Look, Rotel in the reflection. Look at that. Anyways, so it's got all kinds of buttons there for the inputs, speaker AB, really, really good stuff. This is one of the flagships under the Diamond series. Diamond series isn't integrated, so this is like a below the Michi line. It doesn't have a streamer though. It has USB input for like a computer or something like that, but it doesn't have streaming. It's got Ethernet, but just for updates. So that's the one thing that I don't like. There's one other small detail about them that I don't like, and for whatever reason, the preamp's got like a noise floor that I don't like. So in the Orchard Audio amps, have no noise floor. So when I'm turning on, I don't know what's going on with my shirt today. I'm like being all hunchy. The Orchard Audio amps, when they turn on, there's no noise floor. It's absolutely quiet. But when the relays click into the Rotel, there's been a problem since I've owned it. Now, I don't know if that's design. I don't know if it deserves to be spec'd. I did talk to reps at one point about sending it back, having them look at it, that kind of thing. And I thought, you know what? I'm not concerned enough that in my room, considering I'm this far away, I don't hear it much from my seating position. I can. Even at 2.5 meters, I can still hear the hiss when it clicks on, which is not good. You should not be able to hear hissing from a preamp from that distance. So anyways, more about the amps. When I had the 5-channel amp, the 5-channel amp had a little bit of a power on sound, like without the preamp connected. It would still turn on, and then you can hear a little bit of sound. The Orchard Audio amps have zero sound. With the preamp off and the power comes on, there's zero sound. There's no hiss, there's no nothing. They're very, very, very silent and efficient amps, which I think is amazing. So when I moved from a 5-channel Rotel amp to the monoblocks, which I've wanted monoblocks forever. A lot of people wanted to talk me out of it, and they said, oh, don't get this, it's extra chassis, you're paying for this, blah, blah, blah. But you're talking about Orchard Audio where their amplifiers are small. They're very small. They're small enough that I could hide these behind my tower speakers and you wouldn't even know I had amps in the room. It would be so clean. They're not subject to heating or overheating. They don't need a lot of space for that sense. So you could literally hide them away and behind something and you wouldn't even see it. No wires, no heating problems. There's no real reason to even turn them on and off. There is no remote on and off switch. That would be an interesting addition. I don't know if I can talk to Leo about something like that, but they're efficient enough you could leave them on. And I don't know if there's an auto off or like an auto sensing feature. That might be interesting too. I'd have to ask Leo about that. I don't think so. I don't think it's written into the literature. But if there's one change, maybe for those that are thinking like, oh, I want a really nice system, I want to have everything set up very clean. Like in my room, let me flip the camera, walk around a little bit. In my room, it's very clean in here. Like I designed it in such a way that I could hide pretty much everything, like without the swords, without the mirror, the amps sitting on the floor like that. I could hide them behind on the tower, like on the speaker stand, no problem. And then everything would be hidden in that one section. It would clean up the whole room. Because like, let's face it, what's the number one complaint about audio systems in most rooms, right? The cables. The cables laying on the floor everywhere, making a mess, right? You don't want to see any cables. You have to hide cables. That's why in-wall speakers, in-ceiling speakers, cables are a really big difference. Yeah, see, like that's the number one complaint about it is cables everywhere. Just hide the goddamn cables, right? I know what it is. I've had the same thing. The one thing that and this room is a dedication space to my mom, by the way. If you guys didn't realize, you can't really see it there, but there's my mom's braid is there, and I bought these swords for her. So this whole space is white. in her memory, the white swords are for her. So just want to touch on that. My mom would be somewhat satisfied, but then she would look in this corner and be like, what is that shit? She'd be like, no, clean that up. You need to hide those cables. You know, do better than that. It's okay that they're white, make them look nice. But because I've changed so much stuff in here, thank you so much, Foz. Drew, thank you. I appreciate that. It was unfortunately cancer, and it was unfortunately after she got one of those shots. So let's not talk about that. But it is a fact. 65 years old, no problems. Until then. So the story, yeah, it's a dedicated space for her. These are to represent her. This is actually her partner's sword, who also passed away a number of years earlier. So I got these for them to be together in this space, so they can always be present and I can always listen to music with them. It's it's a little touching, I understand, and I appreciate all the empathies. A lot of people may ask me like why I do this. They don't really understand, and unless we tell the story, like this is actually my mom's favorite color, turquoise, and the reason why these are in turquoise and gold and chrysanthemums on the tsuba, which is a different word in Japanese for guard. Yeah, it's in her favorite color. So yeah, mom was cremated, and that's the only thing I have left there is the braid. So it means a lot to me to follow these types of principles, to clean up the room, to hide everything away. So Orchard Audio amps in that sense give me the opportunity to make everything smaller, to hide them out of the way. I don't think that I'm ever going to be able to get it in a raw aluminum finish. That would be really cool. Instead of black anodized, get them in like a raw aluminum. I think that would be fucking cool. I doubt Leo's going to be like, yeah, let's do that. Let's get a whole bunch of chassis made that are even more special. They might even cost more money like that, but I think that they would be really awesome in like a raw aluminum. May have to ask him that. Or I'll probably watch this afterwards. So, hey, Leo, hopefully this whole stream is very good for the company. We're talking about maybe getting these in a raw alumina instead of black anodized, but okay, there you go. I say a lot of random things and ideas come to mind, but yeah, I understand once the process is in place and orders are already in place, it's difficult and more hassle sort of to like order more because it just adds a SKU and shipping, but anodizing's got to cost more. So I'm wondering how difficult that would be. But yeah, I think depending on their width, the premiums, and where the feet are, I could still use these for the premiums. 100%, I would absolutely love to fit them in here just to see how that would look. I may even paint the stands white to make it disappear even more, like disappear into the system. Yeah, I think that would be absolutely awesome. I don't know if everybody else likes the idea, but definitely comment on the video afterwards. Say, what do we call them? Silver SLVR? SLVR edition? That would be cool in a premium monoblock, yeah, because the price and effort would reflect the specialness of it. Absolutely. I think that would be super cool. Drew is saying, I didn't know that it's possible to bury someone inside the house that they lived in. Well, she didn't live here. My mom actually lived in Newfoundland in Canada, so we all grew strong and independent, and mom owned her home and almost retired and loved her environment and lived in the place that she grew up as a kid and chose to be sort of quote unquote buried, but not buried. You can't be buried. Anyways, spread into the wind where she grew up as a child. So all of her most spiritual blessings happened. So it's the most that I could do. And I actually have a playlist from my mom as well in my Spotify playlist. I made one the year that I went down to see her. It should be in here somewhere. Do I not have it tagged? Playlist made by me. So there's my mom's dedicated playlist. Her favorite music is on my Spotify playlist for everybody to listen to. These are songs that we sat and curated together in 2022. So this was December. Well, we actually made the playlist a number of years ago with music that she loved from, Apple Music and what had on a laptop. So we transferred it to streaming so that we could listen to it and I could share it the way that I do. And she was all about sharing and accommodating people. And I think that this pink chair would actually be a delight because it's a splash of color in an otherwise cold sort of room. So like the stark sort of contrast of the color would be really nice. It's something that I try to remember in here. And like I said, with amps that are like this great, this small, this easy to take care of, that I can hide them or tuck them away or place them in an area that they're like, not that they're not amazing to look at, but you're capable of tucking them away with confidence and knowing that they're going to perform at their best because they don't require a whole lot of space for heat because they're so efficient. And everything is tucked onto one side, so you don't have to worry about the way that they're positioned. Now, the only other thing that I love about amps these days is something that would fit vertical, but that's another adventure. So let me catch up here in the chat. So Orchard Audio said the mono blocks he's using now are $12.50 each. Starkrimson Mono Premium. Yeah, I had the website called up. I wonder if it's still on my phone. We can do that. We can do that again here just to wrap up towards the end of the video. I should have them lit up there. Anthesius is here. Drew has said she's still with. Yeah, 100%. There's no way. There's no way at all that she's not in my head at all times. I'm always listening to things like, hey, don't buy that, don't spend that, what are you doing, get to work, do this, do that. All the details are on the website. You guys definitely go to orchardaudio.com. You can find all of the different models that are there. Look up all of this stuff. And Theseus, what's going on? Mono amps are just nicer to have in general. Hell yeah. And I was talking about the way this power supply sounds, and now that Leo's here, maybe you can fill me in on details. We're talking about how the power supply was going to sound a little bit beefier and whatnot. And I know that Soundstage showed some of the internals, which I flipped through a little bit earlier on here. But I'm wondering if there could be like a couple of words on what's going on with the power supply in terms of the Starkrimson Premiums. This is the Ultra monos. You guys check this one out. I can't really zoom in on this stuff. Hold on. I'm doing this from my phone, so forgive me. So you can see that they're significantly bigger, but that means you're going to get more power, better power supply, bigger power supply. Yeah. All on the website. Again, if I haven't answered all questions, because I honestly don't have all of them, and I don't feel like repeating myself, somebody's gone through the work of putting all of this in a website. The best thing to do to get information about products is to go to the website and look it up yourself. So there's the DMC version I was talking about earlier, the Pecan Pi plus streamer, basically preamp, streamer. Check all that stuff out. Amp options if you want 2 and 3 channels. If you're looking for a stereo ultra amp without the extra features, like this is like This is like a 24 piece with, you know, with dipping sauce, fries, and ice cream. This is basically just your 12-piece bucket. Not to say that it's not really, really good, but you guys know what I mean. So yeah, check out the website. All the details are there. You guys see the address there. It's the best I can do. As a non-reviewer, somebody sitting in my sweaty room talking about audio, that's the best information I'm going to be able to provide. I wonder if I could actually light these up somehow. All I have is the light that I had from earlier. So we'll do like one more sweeping. Yeah. So the words from Orchard Audio are power supplies are a very important part of the amplifier. 100%. We're basically talking about power manipulation. So if the power is not on tap, it doesn't flow right, it isn't readily available. If the power supply doesn't perform fast, if you want really, really good transient responses, you're going to need to have a good power supply. Now, I know that I can't open it up, but there is a nice one in there. There's very, very few photos of it, and you can see only little bits and pieces. I was actually going to say, and I mentioned earlier, not to pester Leo with more ideas, when these amps are on, there's no indicator whether they're on. There's no lights, there's no LED, there's no... I don't see one anyways. I only hear a little bit of sound when they're clipped on. And I know the switch is turned on, that's fine. But what I was thinking is if there was like a subtle internal glow, just to let you know, it's like you can't really see the light, but if you could just look inside the amp and you could see like a little tiny light that's on. What'd be really cool is like Orchard, you could have like pears are green, apples are green and red, and you know what I mean? So like that would be cool, but that's like putting a whole bunch of like electronics inside that would probably cause more of a mess. So I was thinking about lighting them from underneath. But now I'm wondering if I turn the amp on, how do I get power to lights? But yeah, you just have to respect the amps and know that they're on. So yeah, that's the, look at the brushed aluminum work and the engraved, like I imagine it's laser engraved, but there's a depth there if you guys can see that. Yeah, very, very good stuff. And they paired very, very well with my other speakers. 21.5 gain is not bad compared to what I've had before. They work well with my sensitive speakers, which are in the other room. If you guys want to see the other room, I might as well show you. So this is the other room. These are the other speakers that I was using for quite a while. Excuse my lights. The shutter speed from my camera is not at the same frequency. So these, the Arundel Towers, these are just in here while I was testing out the SVS bookshelves. And I might have to leave them in here because now I have 3 other bookshelf speakers coming. So I'll have even more opportunities to show off the room and the amplifiers and, you know, months and months and months and months of free advertising. How about that? It's amazing. This is what we do. We're all in it because we're passionate about it. It's not because it's not highly rewarding. I imagine the stress that goes into just keeping this shit together is it's a trade-off. You know, we enjoy it, and it's part of who we become. You know, we choose to be hobbyists because we love this stuff. Some of the work, the effort, the stress, the struggles, the emotions that come along with it, because let's face it, music is an emotional expression. So how could we be in a hobby of musical expression and not be emotional about some of the things that come along with it, right? That's just part of the story. So internals, let me see. Let me go back. Orchard Audio saying, actually, thank you for being here, by the way. I do really appreciate that. Adds to everything. Future versions, there will be a small LED inside you can see through the vents. That would be perfect. I'm glad we think alike in terms of what might be needed. Maybe others have said the same thing. Just as long as it's, I mean, I know there's ways of connecting a light in a way that doesn't affect the audio path, and be it a power amplifier, and I think that the signal input and output stages are pretty isolated on the boards that are there. I imagine to get one more voltage feed off of a power supply wouldn't be that difficult. Maybe even with a push button, like underneath, you can turn the light on and off, optional. You know how people are with light options. Drew says installing a light that light up when it turned on would be cool. Yes, that's yeah, something very subtle. I mean, I know that a lot of companies put them like here, like on the front. Like, to me, and no offense, that's fucking annoying. I don't want it in my face. I like all of that stuff. Like, you're listening to music. I have all these lights on in here because it's optional. And I'll break for a second. I'll give you guys a sound demo, and I'm gonna change the lighting in here. So how's that? I mean, immediately the mood in the room changes. And he's just saying, I love lights on amps if they were white. Let me know you're doing something great. Just be white. Yeah, I agree. The white is a really cool sort of thing. This idea of like blue LEDs, like, it's cool, but I prefer the white. Like, the white is just very clean, and it's neutral, it's expressive, you know what I mean? And it definitely changes the whole feel of a room. You can make it seem so different just with a little bit of lighting. I mean, the amps are clean and off like that. You could totally hide them, absolutely. But having an option, I mean, have you ever seen sports cars that have like the underglow lighting as an option? Hey, when you want to show off, that's a really good way to show off. That's all I'm saying. Like the other lighting in the room. But you can make them red, and blue. Like, everything gets a little bit washed out. Yeah, it's really nice. I love having the option of lighting. That's one of the really cool things about having white lights or white room, is I get to make the room kind of look and feel however I want. And having the extra little bit, like if I turn all the lights off, let me douse them. If I had those amps like lit up in those spaces right there, like very subtle, I think that would be so cool. Oh, Anthesius is saying it would match my future PC, doesn't color the room, but all good. Yeah, actually, that would be really cool, because if you wanted amplifiers to like match, I mean, think about all of those Macintosh owners. Come on, bro. Like, those Macintosh owners are all about those LEDs. They can't wait to get home and turn those colors on. It's just how it is. We know how it is. Hey, man, we all like a little bit of lighting. Let me just change what's going on over here. So I hope that you've all had a chance to maybe, well, I mean, while you're watching, you're obviously not going to scroll off of the stream, but you've had the opportunity to collect some information about Orchard Audio and see what kind of options they have. I mean, I know that right now, especially, we all want to feel like we're making good investments, smart investments. We're getting back from what we spend, and our efforts and our investments. I say investment, but audio is a luxury, so you really want to be sure what you're getting is going to pay off and is going to be very rewarding. I have to say, in my entire hi-fi journey, which hasn't been very long compared to some people, but from a 2-channel sort of integrated AVR a number of years ago, through the experiences with my 5-channel Rotel, which allowed me bi-amping, but it was a power amp and preamp, the experience with these Orchard Audio monoblocks amps actually made me the most excited about hi-fi that I have been since I bought my hi-fi speakers. Now, when I bought the Sonus Faber Lumina 2s, which I didn't use with the Orchard Audios, I got them before that. That was like my first step in hi-fi world, because Sonus Faber is a very good brand. They make really good speakers, Italian-made speakers. They were budget-oriented speakers that they were. Sounded amazing, enjoyed them, loved them, upgraded from them. Eventually got the Arundel Towers, and those speakers, even with the amplifier that I had, even with the Rotel, the Arundel Towers are some of the best that I've heard because of the characteristics that they offer. They're a 92 dB sensitive speaker. They're a 35 hertz low reach speaker with multiple ports for tuning. They're HDF construction. They have no resonance. They're higher value per dollar because they're direct from companies. So they're even better than they would be if I was paying the same price for something else. If I bought them at a retail level plus the 30% that retailers collect, they'd be somewhere in the range of 10 grand, but they're really only about 6.5 Canadian, I think. They're 4,600 US plus taxes. The Orchard Audio amplifiers was a direction that I had been in for a number of years. I'd always seen them advertised. I know that my friend Jay had them in house for a while. Zeos Reviews has had Orchard Audio on his channel for a long time. In fact, he's still using them as his reference amps. And what he says about Orchard Audio is very, very blunt. And he's the kind of person who's listened to amps forever. So he still has the Starkrimson monos in his reference system. So when I knew about them and I started hearing about this GANFET tech and this idea of Class D being developed beyond what has been out there before, and then I saw the specs that came back. It's like 0.0008 THD numbers. It's really, really good stuff, and that's because of the designing and the engineering that goes into it, of course, but also the development of this technology over time. So to have an amp that's really small, that has a very good power supply, has absolutely zero noise floor, provides some of the cleanest and best separated sound I've heard in any other amps, even in other places, and to know that a lot of my peers and reviewers agree with this technology, even though they have 20 other companies breathing down their neck about reviews. Orchard Audio is still on the money and best for money. So someone mentioned upgrading from Fosse Audio. Please do it. Orchard Audio is saying here in the chat, says retailers normally take 40%, sometimes even 50%, I guess, depending on what it is. And I know a little bit about pricing and cost versus retail because I worked for a brand before. I've assembled amplifiers myself. I've seen the SMT and the pick and place line and the wave soldering lines and the boards, and I've seen the QC process. I've seen the audio precision tech process. I've seen all of those things myself. So I know a little bit about amps. I also know how much the markup is from cost. It's pretty wild. So when you go direct from company, like my speakers with Arundel Audio, Arundel Sound, Arundel direct to company, SVS direct to company, Orchard Audio offering what they do at these prices, you're getting the same thing. You're getting like twice the amplifier for the price, and the fact that they outperform a lot of other stuff. It's really good. It's a really good deal. And like I said, these are the most exciting thing that have happened to my hi-fi experience in the last number of years outside of the speakers that I bought. So I thank Leo very, very much for an incredible opportunity and for making such things that actually perform very, very well. I mean, he will tell you, the website will tell you, all of the reviewers will tell you, but it's not just my word for it, but working through all of these different avenues, being so closely related and having the communication and like customer service and the back and forth and being very, open and hosting listening sessions. Come on. You get to go and actually listen to this stuff. There was opportunities for people to go and actually hear these amps on speakers at locations dedicated, not just audio shows, like outside of that, because there's no retail location. That's brilliant. There's hardly any other company owners that are putting that kind of effort into the brand, being able to bring it to people. That tells you a lot. And I'm not just saying it because he's here, and I'm not just saying it because, I have to think about my next opportunity. No, I'm saying it because it's true. There aren't that many people that are doing that. There are not that many owners that are willing to invite people into a space to listen to products. Say, hey, bring your stuff, bring your playlist, come and listen to this thing outside of audio shows. It's really unheard of. So I think that's incredible. I want to say thank you very much for also being here in the chat for everybody to speak with. That's amazing. Even Anthesius saying Leo's a solid person. Well, I don't know about solid. I mean, I think he's, we could all be a little squishy, but I know what you mean. That's really great. Thanks guys for saying that. I want to put on the rest of the seat. I like having music in the background while I'm talking. We're over an hour now, so I don't know how everybody's feeling, but hey, I'm a joker at best. I'm a joker. So let me read this other message here. Say, Anthesius is asking, Fossey, V3 monos are okay now that they got polarity figured out. Yes, I saw that, and that happens. I will tell you that the polarity on some of the terminals sometimes come coupled, like the positive and negative are on the same attachment, like when you place it on the back, and it's easy to switch them, the colors. Sometimes the leads are different, so when you attach them on the inside, red and black, they're attached wrong. So unless you're looking at them very carefully and you're not like doing this trying to assemble your amps, it happens. I've seen it. I've worked QC before, and you have to be paying attention. It could also be the way that they're marked on the board. So like if you do silk screening over your circuit boards and you just happen to put the positive and negative in the wrong place, the assemblers don't know the difference. They're not checking polarity. And when you hear sound, it sounds fine. But when you play monos left to right versus this version or that version, or the transient response in the wave, the initial waveform starts at a peak. That's like bass drums hit and move air out. The compression is forward. So there can be a problem in terms of that with polarity, but it's harder to detect. So there are some tests, some other companies do that stuff, but yeah, I'm glad that they did clear it up. But you're talking about one chip on a heatsink that's the whole chassis that operates in I don't know what kind of band. I mean, if you look at their numbers, it's nowhere close to what Orchard Audio's giving you. Yes, they're going to be, I don't know what the price difference is. I think it's probably 2.5 times the price for the premium model. Correct me if I'm wrong, but I still think you can get your hands on the original monos, which are a little bit less power supply dependent. But I'm saying, like, if you don't really need the premium chassis, and you think that the original mono, Starkrimson mono, is enough for you, or even a duo if you want a stereo 2-channel sort of chassis, you don't need monos. Even one of the duos is going to be really good. You don't need 2 power supplies. There's still better amp modules. You're going to move up a notch even if you decided to go that way. I understand what a lot of people's thing about monos are. It keeps the signal separated. The power supply only has one set of impulses or signals to reproduce. I agree with that, but you're also incurring a cost, so you really have to think about it. Some of my more educated and experienced friends in the audio industry have talked about doing really good integrated amps. Now, I don't know if there's an Orchard Audio integrated coming. I mean, God knows he's got everything else going on. Don't say it. I'm just putting it out there. My other friends have talked about having everything in one box because it reduces prices, reduces materials. It does incur some kind of noise isolation. You do have to make sure that all of the circuits are separated, sometimes using different power supplies. It does increase your potential for noise. So separates are still better depending on your power conditioning. But I mean, for ease of use sake, if you somehow had everything separated in the right way, I mean, look at the new Marantz top of the line flagships. They have 2 switch mode power supplies in a dual mono configuration and a toroidal transformer for another power supply to power the preamp board. There's 3 goddamn power supplies in the new Marantz unit, but it's $15,000. I mean, I know we want audio and we want quality, but like, come on, $15K? Are you kidding? The thing is basically made out of a solid block of copper. It's crazy if you guys have seen it. But you're talking like, that's really, really expensive to get to that. And the $1 million question is, what's the return on investment? What's your diminishing returns on a $15,000 amp that plays music versus what you can get in integrateds or even separates at a lower level? Like, what are you looking for? Is it a characteristic of sound or a purity of sound? Say, I don't know. And Dishes is saying I might eventually wanting to get dual mono amps, use the headphones too. Curiosity is killing the cat over here. Headphone output, yeah, I totally understand. Now, I don't remember if something like the Pecan Pie preamp streamer, I don't remember if they have headphone outputs. That's a whole other interesting tech. Are there GaNFET amps in headphones yet? I don't even know anything about headphone amps. It's beyond me because they're only doing like 1 watt for headphones. I mean, what are you talking about? Like, that's there's the answer. My Pecan Pie and Pecan Pie Plus devices have headphone amps. There's the answer. See, I'm not an expert, and that's why I'm not reviewing anything, because I'm not fully speaking as a rep. I only have 1 pair of amps. But there's the answer, everybody. The Orchard Audio stuff, Pecan Pie and Pecan Pie Plus, which are devices and streamers. Preamps, I believe, they do have headphone amps inside. Now, I don't know anything about headphone amp sections, so I don't know what goes into those. I won't speak to that. It's something I'll have to look into. But we're talking about doing audio correctly, not necessarily being like esoteric, not the brand, but being like overly like over-engineering things. You want it to work and you want it to sound good. And what's the diminishing returns on that? Like, do you need to spend $15K? Or is 6 enough? Or is 3 enough? You know what I mean? Like, so clarification just for the sake here, Pecan Pie Plus, Pecan Pie and Plus are Class A B amplifiers in that section. So again, it's something that I don't know anything about, how they're made, what's making those what kind of amp tech or circuits are being used. It's not the same as powering speakers, because the wattage and current and the transistors and all that stuff have got to be different. So I don't know what goes into headphone amps. I know that there's a couple brands that I know that make headphone amps and make DACs and things like that that are doing really good stuff. I don't know what they use, but I know their products are really good. And he's just saying, I mean, speaker taps for headphones. Trones is saying, I use Yamaha DSP Z11. What is a DSP Z11, if you remind me real quick? And thank you for those that are watching. I see 9 and 9 likes. That means a lot to me. I appreciate it. That means that this has meant something to someone, and I appreciate it. Whenever I can get on to do live videos, and the reason why I do them live instead of talking at a head video is because, one, editing is terrible. Editing takes so much time, and I don't have the patience to sit there and film and write it down and make a plan. I'm too ADHD. Doing live for me is better because you all join me in the conversation. What you say gets to me immediately. You don't have to wait for me to answer comments or maybe ignore your comments. You're here live. I'm reading what I'm seeing. This is way more personal, way more community, way more informative, in my opinion, to do it this way. That's why I do it this way. And Thesia is saying, didn't know they had headphone output. Nice. So there you go. And the Z11, DSP Z11 is a surround receiver. So you're using a DSP Z11 for music as well, I'm guessing. I used to use a Denon receiver as an output. So oh, okay, so there's a response to somebody that I'm not reading anymore. I can't see any of those chats or comments. I put on mute, so I don't see anything. It's one too many comments that are just off color that I can't tolerate that. So what else can I say about these? I don't think I missed really anything. For music and surround, yes, awesome. So I was using a Denon for a long time, an old one, a 4308, so it was a really old unit. It was a really good, heavy, massive power supply, 170 watts times whatever, but you know what that is. So in two channels, probably more than 170 each channel. It wasn't until the relay started dying that I had to stop using it, but that's where I got my separates and I started using Rotel. So it turned out well. I'm glad to be where I am with Orchard Audio and Rotel for now. My preamp might change at some point. Again, I was saying I'm getting a noise floor with my current system, and I may want to change that up a little bit. Now, if I can move forward to, I don't know that I need bigger amplifiers per se. If I could get them in aluminum finish, raw, that might be something at least to look at. We'll have to see how that goes. I'm really happy with them. There's been no flaws. There's been no glitches, no power out. Nothing that I can say that is of any fault. I don't push them very hard, mind you. My dials very rarely ever gone above 50 out of 100. So their input stage, their gain, even with 87 dB speakers, I still don't need to push them very hard. I mean, as you can see in my system, I do have subwoofers powering the bass. However, the Rotel doesn't have a high pass for the SVS, so it's they're still driving the bass for these. But even with the Arundel towers that are dipping into the 4 ohms, I mean, the Orchard Audio amps are 2 ohm capable, so it's not like I'm really stressing them out. And the power capability is very stable, so it's not like I'm going to run into any issues with really big and demanding speakers. I haven't tested them on anything that's like a Magnapan, but I've heard that they're really good for that. Like 2 ohm stable is very good for hard to drive speakers. You're not going to run into any problem. The idea of the gain stage being low also reduces the amount of noise floor in the circuit, which is actually more valuable than I ever thought needed. I see bigger numbers, and bigger numbers are sometimes attractive, but they show you the numbers in specs and advertising that make you think it's a good deal. But what you really need to look for is sometimes the low numbers, like low distortion, low crosstalk. Well, there's no crosstalk in a monoblock amp, which is the brilliance. The crosstalk between these amps has got to be 0, because look how far they are apart. And the XLR cables go all the way back to my preamp. So the crosstalk would be in the preamp section. But the low gain stage means that they're not overdriving the input stage or the power. I don't know which side of it is. Leah's gonna have to correct me there. I'm not an engineer. But one of the stages in the amp needs to have a certain input gain, and the gain that you input, say if it was a guitar amp, you can turn the gain up on a guitar amp but not the master volume, and you can distort it very easily by turning the gain up. The volume hasn't changed, but the gain has changed. And it's the same thing with mixer boards. There's a gain and there's a master volume, and between those two, what you're doing is changing. I guess it's an input stage. You put gain on it in order for the amplifier or the output stage to further amplify. Now, I'm not sure how that works technically. I don't want to pull up specs here, but I know that gain staging on its own can actually increase distortion. So again, it's not all about the big numbers, like you want to see 800 watts per channel and all these other types of things, but it's not. Yeah, Leo saying too much to get into here. Yeah, I don't know if I'd be able to read a paragraph on gain stage versus output, but I know it should be available somewhere. Someone online has done some things about output stage. Maybe even Paul McGowan at PS Audio or someone like that has already done like detailed specs on how gain stage affects the amplifier's inputs. But yeah, so in the amplifiers so far, like really power supply is a huge thing. Your capacitance is a huge thing for certain transients and power. You want to make sure that it's clean. You want to make sure that it's sufficient. You don't want to be taxing a power supply, otherwise you're going to be choking the shit out of your speakers. That's not a technical term. That's just me being technical, me being colorful. We're going to do one more look at the amps. We're going to do one more look at the amps here before we get out of here. It's been about an hour and 40 minutes. So again, this is the Orchard Audio Starkrimson Premium Monoblock amps. These are my new all-time reference sort of speaker amplifiers. Oh, all professional video there. It's too bad I don't do B-roll of shit like that. Too lazy to edit it. I'm just doing it all at once. Is that a scratch or that's a hair? Hold on. That's a hair. They're a little bit prone to fingerprints and dust in the logo, but you can see there that it is engraved. I have magnets on my light and it's not sticking to the chassis, but yeah, it's dusty. Forgive me. Oh no. It's not exactly the best thumbnail ever, but yeah, it's a little bit dusty. I give him some love. I definitely give him some love. Hopefully you guys give him some love. Check out the website for all the important details. Please, for the love of God, don't just take my word for it. I've said it before. You guys buy products out there, please check with the brands, check with the manual, read the information that these guys have put time into doing. It's their products. They know more about it than anybody online. I don't care if you've been a reviewer for 40 years, you own a magazine, you run a network. I don't give a shit who you are. The brands and the manufacturers of this stuff know more than anybody. Don't automatically turn to Facebook unless their reps are on Facebook to answer you. I don't know how I can say that any louder, but it'll serve the community better if you don't just trust anybody out there. I mean, that includes me. Who am I at the end of the day? I'm just a guy. I'm just a guy that knows a little bit about a little bit, and I come on here to share my story, to share my experiences, to share my insights, to share some things about the technology, to offer some sort of perspective that hopefully at the end of the day to inspire people to think about what you get back from these products, what they're really going, what's really going on, what's really being developed. Innovative technology is always a risk. It's always more expensive to do something that nobody's really doing. Everything about it is more expensive to begin with. You guys remember how much plasma TVs used to cost? Flat panel TVs, do you guys remember how much flat panels used to cost? So something like GANFET, which has been used in a number of different applications, is slowly being used in more audio applications. You guys also know that that's how we got blue LEDs. I watched a video the other day on how we got blue LEDs, and gallium nitride is actually a very, very big part of how we got blue LEDs and how we ended up getting white LEDs. We wouldn't have it if it wasn't for this material that was used in a process. Someone who spent 30 years of their lives developing and playing around with and pushing for this possible, this slight possibility. You have to engineer and innovate and innovate and innovate and keep pushing and keep pushing, and that's why it costs a lot. And if you don't want to buy overseas and you don't want to see business go somewhere else, then you need to stop bitching and complaining about stuff being built somewhere else and buy the stuff locally. There are businesses all over the place that are right here or right beside you that are making the best stuff that they can, and they need your support here. So yes, while Fosse Audio makes an amp that's really, really cheap, think about the long-term consequences, or the long-term effects, not consequences, because I respect every business trying to do their best, but think about the longevity of the decisions that you're making. Maybe that's something to consider. And when you have something that looks this good, that performs this good, that sounds this good, that's engineered this well, that has service that's right next door, you don't have to wait a week for some ship to come across the ocean. Maybe think about it. How do you like them apples? I had to say it. It's in the literature. I don't have the paperwork anymore. The boxes are in the closet. But anyways, that's enough for me. Thank you very much for watching this hour and 47-minute stream. I appreciate everybody who's here. Thank you, Leo from Orchard Audio, who's joined us in the chat for at least half of the stream, which is amazing. I can't imagine how busy everything is. But thank you, everybody, for being in chat. Anthesius, Trones has been here. Ted K was here for a while. Let me see who else I'm missing. Jordan B was here for a while. Drew was here. A whole bunch of other people in chat have come and gone. I really respect all of you for being around. If I can do another little stream tomorrow, maybe I'll do that. This one was a long time coming. I not really owed, but wanted to talk about Orchard Audio and the journey I've spent eventually getting to this point, because I've wanted those amps for a long time. Maybe even up to 2 years ago, I started talking about having the amps and seeing what they're all about, and then eventually making it happen. So like, just because they're expensive today doesn't mean that you can't make a plan to get there eventually. And believe me, it's worth it. If you spend once on quality, you're not going to have to worry about, oh, what is going on with this company? What are the polarity? What's going on with the parts? You know what I mean? Just saying. I'm saying if you set a plan, you make a plan, you dedicate some effort and time into getting to those places of higher quality, it will reward you. And I mean, my experiences from here are proof, proof in my case. So one more note, if you are in the New Jersey area, we are having an open house on September 21st. That's Orchard Audio. So the New Jersey area, contact and look up the Facebook group, the webpage, contact Leo via the website, I guess. The email contact information is there. There's an open house for listening demos in the New Jersey area on September 21st. Mark the dates, mark the webpage. I'll put everything in the description after this video has been up for a couple of days. Sometimes YouTube takes a while to sort everything out, the chat, all that stuff will be there. But thank you very much, everyone, for being here. Thank you for spending your time on a Saturday evening, afternoon, if you're in the West Coast, East Coast. If you're in Europe, I would love to see more of these products somewhere in Europe. It'd be nice if somebody showed them off at Munich. But it's not called Munich anymore. It's called Vienna. That's going to mess people up. Anyways, good night, guys. Thank you for being here. Thank you, Leo, once again for everything. It's really, really awesome. Thank you, Anthesius, Trones, Ted K, everybody that's been in chat. Thank you and have a great night.